Hello, everyone. I'm Trent Blizzard, and I am the creator, along with Kristen, my wife, of GeoForager and Modern Forager. And today I want to talk about how to use GeoForager. And this is the first in a series of webinars. Today I want to really work through the app and show the different tools and the overlays and how it works. Next week, I'm doing one on burn morels, and we're going to focus on all the burns that are across the West, especially, and look into some states and talk about how to find burn morels. Um, and then in the week after that, we're going to do one more of a how to use the map to find mushrooms, and we're going to dig deeper. This one is more about the map and GeoForager. In 2 weeks, the one we're going to do is going to be more about how mushrooms work and how you can use the map to find the mushrooms. So it'll be a little mushrooms centric. And then what else do we have? We have in 3 weeks, we have an insider tips session, and that's just going to be for subscribers where I can kind of show a lot of things that I wouldn't show to people that aren't subscribers, and really dig into, the A fires and look at them in a little more depth across the West. And then in 4 weeks, we're going to repeat this. So there you are. That's the plan, the upcoming plan. And it looks like people are coming in saying hi. I see Heather, Jamie, looking good. All right, guys, let's dive in here. I have today I have 7 broad topics I want to talk about. I want to talk about the controls that you have here in the app. I want to talk about base maps. That's the second topic. I want to talk about habitat maps, the trees, forest, topography, things like that. That's the third topic. The fourth topic, I want to look at the man-made structures in the map. And by man-made, I mean like forest fires and logging zones. The fifth topic, I want to talk about time-based elements, which would be precipitation and soil moistures and soil temperatures. And elements like that if you look at it today, you're going to get something different than yesterday or tomorrow because they're based on time, which by the way is what we want to use to know when to go as opposed to where to go often. The next one will be I guess called the sixth topic will be called staying legal, and that's about land ownership and how to find public land and avoid private land. And the seventh topic are going to be field tools, how to use this in the field, how to use markers and tracks and save offline. So without further ado, let's jump in here and look at the controls. And again, if you have any questions, pop them in there. This is the browser version of the app. We are in the premium edition. The free edition has a lot of, it looks the same, but a lot of the overlays are kind of behind out, not a lock and key, so you can't really access everything in the free edition. There's an app that goes with this. You can do it in Android or iPhone, and they're pretty much exactly the same, except you have another icon or two over here to substitute for the left panel to access that, since there's not really enough room for a left panel. Now, as you look at the panel up here, up on the right, you'll see your initials, and this is going to be your subscription and account area. By the way, if you want to manage your subscription, you can do that right here in subscriptions. You can also report a bug and request a feature. I pay a lot of attention to those. So please use those. If you want a new feature or you want something new, I really try to be responsive to those. As we run down the right-hand side here and the icons, we have the magnifying glass, which will allow you to search. You can search all of your markers and folders and tracks, but you can also just drop a long lat right in here and it will take you right to that spot. So if you have some coordinates that you want to go to, or you want to go to a city or a state or something like that, you could just quickly type in Eugene, Oregon, and you can find all kinds of things related to Eugene here. The next area is going to be our folders, which is where we're going to manage all of the stuff that as a user we add to the site, markers, tracks, things like that. The third is the plus button, and this is where you add things to the map. This is where you can add a pin, you can add a photo, you can manage them in the folder, and you can add tracks. So we'll talk about that. That's the second to last topic is this button. And this button, the offline options. Now, when you click this, it pops up and will show you, this one shows you your offline maps, allows you to see them on the screen when you click it. This will allow you to manage your offline maps. This is where you download new offline maps, and this is where you click this button. It actually takes you offline or online. If you want to go offline, we'll talk about why you do want to go offline sometimes. This little button right here will take you to where you are. So if you click on that, you can see I'm right there. This is where I'm sitting right now, and it locates you on the spot. A cautionary tip on this: it's kind of nice to have this when you're out in the woods or moving around. You can see right where you're at. The downside of this particular feature is it does drain the batteries because every 10 seconds it's checking where you are, and it uses a lot more battery power. If you give it a quick click, it'll recenter you on there again, show you where you're at. And if you long click it, I think you can turn it off that way. So you do have kind of an on off if you want to do that. So let's see what else we've got here. That on the left, we have the zoom controls. You can also pinch with your fingers if you're on an app, or I should say a phone. Now on the left, we have our base map. On your app, that's going to look like an icon over here on the right, shaped like the world. And these are where you're going to choose different base maps. We'll talk about that. That's actually the next topic. And then finally, we have all of our overlays. Then inside all the overlays, you have these carrots right here. We call those carrots, the little button, and you click it, and that means there's something behind it. In this case, there's a lot of behind it. And you can click the down arrow, and that will give you usually more information, often legends or controls. This little heart button here is pretty awesome. If you hit it, it will put it up into your favorites where you can access it real quick and easy. You can also toggle things on and off. If that's not on, it doesn't work. And everything also has this opacity slider that lets you ramp the opacity up and down, which we'll look at that too today. The final control is when you click on the map, and I feel like this is the one that a lot of people struggle with. It's new. We were finding that as you tap the map on your phone and move through it, things were popping up all the time. Now you have to tap and hold for a half second, and then things pop. So keep that in mind if you're looking at something and you want to get a pop-up dialog box with information. You got to hold for like just a little brief half second, and you can add markers. We have this really cool advanced precipitation button, which we'll dig into. This will show you the long lat of that particular spot. You could copy that right here if you want to share a long lat with somebody through a messenger or a text or something like that. You can grab the long lat and it will show you your elevation. All right, so those are the basic controls to run through the system as you're using it. I think the biggest area people have problems with are this idea that you have to click and hold just for a half second to pop this up. That seems to be the kind of top issue. Okay, so the next topic I want to look at are base maps. And this is pretty simple. They're in here. What do we have here? Like 7 or 8, 9 base maps. And since this is about foraging, we're really heavy on the topo maps and satellite. We do have Mapbox, Google, and then some miscellaneous maps. You can only have one base map on at a time. So this is Mapbox Street View, which is similar to Google Street View, which is right here. I kind of like the Mapbox more than the Google. I do like the Google Satellite for it's going to give you the most. Oh, I've got something on down here, something turning on. My tree layer is on. I'm just going to go turn that off. Let me just pop in here, and I've got a tree layer on. I'll just turn that off real quick. We don't want that on. And I'll go back. Go back one more. That's a different layer. Oh, I should have shown you can open and close the layers with that right side. So I'll turn that off. Now that's the satellite view right there. And the Google satellite view is pretty nice. It's better than all the other satellite views. The most of these are topos. I like this Mapbox Outdoors view. It has a really nice topo. It's got pretty good roads and trails in it. I think it's often more usable than the Google Terrain view, which is this one, which will feel more terrainy, more three-dimensional, but it doesn't have the topo lines that are quite as easy to read. And you may note it didn't really have the greatest road information either compared to I think this Mapbox Outdoors view. Some of my favorites, though, we have a Forest Service topo. So this comes right from the Forest Service, has some different information on it than you're going to have on the kind of public topo maps that the Forest Service provides. And Esri Topo is a similar concept. This is a third-party provider of topo maps, Esri, and they're pretty good too. And you can see they've got the roads and the topography, which is in feet. It's a little harder to see, but it's in there. The map I use the most when I'm kind of doing my research, I think, I like this CalTopo map. Um, it's unique. It has green means there's trees here, and white means there's no trees. Now, this map is a few years old, so it's possible some trees have grown in some places. And in fact, that's one of our strategies for Matsutake, which I can talk about in another class, is how to find Matsutake with this map and the tree layers. Um, but the thing that people get confused with on this particular map, CalTopo, is it only shows Forest Service areas. So there's all this black space, and that's because there's no Forest Service designations in this area. So often people are like, oh, this map doesn't work. It has big black areas, but it indeed does not have all those areas in there that are kind of public and non-Forest Service. So be aware, this really only works when you're looking at some places with a lot of public land, especially out west. So I'm going to go back to outdoors view, and that's base maps. Do we have any questions on base maps before I move on? Um, uh, we have a question on when will the email to join the member-only webinar of Insider Tips go out? I will send that out in the next couple days, and I will probably send two reminders. So you'll be hearing from me on the Insider Tips only one, and again, that one is only going to be for subscribers. So thank you, Dr. Alana, for asking that question. Okay, so that was base maps. The next thing I want to look at are habitat maps. So habitat maps, let me back out of this, are going to be maps that help you understand really habitats. And I think primarily here, this is trees. And I'm going to probably say this a lot, but there's these things in GeoForager that really aren't available anywhere else. We have, first of all, the top choices. These are tree distributions by species. And I don't have every species in here. I've picked the most important, and I've been adding them when people ask for them in the request a feature. If somebody says, I'd like to have this tree in here, I will go add it to the map, assuming it's available. So far, everything I found, every tree people have wanted except a very unusual rare tree called a Monterey cypress, which I've never seen, I don't think. But you can come in here and say, hey, I really want to find Engelmann spruce. Let me zoom out. I really like Engelmann spruce. So I'll turn that on. And you can see it's going to show you the distribution of the Engelmann spruce. If you open this up, you can see the heavy to light coverage based on the color of the purple. You can zoom this out if it's hiding too much, like anything. You can kind of bring it higher and lower as it kind of works for you. Now, these maps is for trees, you got to understand these are individual species and their distribution. So it doesn't mean that it's the dominant tree in an area and it's going to be mixed with other trees. And if you come in here and you come into conifer and you turn on several trees at once, they will overlay on top of each other. If we turn on Engelmann spruce and ponderosa pine, and if we probably came down here and turned on like a subalpine fir, you're gonna see they cover each other up. So which one do you want to see? Well, if you want to see a layer below it, you can lower this down, and now that'll hide that subalpine fir. The other thing you can do, a little insider tip is like, oh, I want to see Engelmann spruce on top. Just turn it off, and you can turn it back on, and it should lay on top of the ones below it based on the order that you turn things on. So that didn't seem to do that very well. That subalpine fir really takes over, doesn't it? It's a dominant color. So I'll turn these off. Okay, we still have one tree species on. Which one is that? Oh, the ponderosa. Let's turn that off. Okay, and you can see we'll go back. these are the trees by species. Now the tree types is going to be a high level 100. The Forest Service, I should say, has divided up uh, uh, the entirety of North America, United States, North America, I should say, because it is the Forest Service. And they have divided it up into 142 trees that are dominant. So this is not every tree species that is available to you today, like in North America. Instead, this is the dominant tree species. So as you zoom in here, you can pop this open, and you can see they're all turned on right now, but you might clear them all and you might turn on. You can see I have my favorites over here, the ones I've turned on that I'm paying attention to out here in Oregon right now. I'm looking at Engelmann spruce. I'm looking at grand fir. I'm looking at subalpine fir, and there's two types of Engelmann spruce forest, by the way. This one with combined with the subalpine fir is more dominant. I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to zoom out, and those areas are gonna here they're coming in now. They're gonna light up, and that means that this area right here, this pixel, they're 30-meter pixels, by the way. Ultimately, 30-meter squares. The dominant tree type in that area is going to be whichever one we've selected over here. So it's a little different than the species map. It's the dominant tree map. And you will find other trees in that same pixel if you look at them by species. But theoretically, if you visit that area, you will see that this type is the dominant tree type. Any questions on that? Heather, what's the source of the tree distributions? Those come from the U.S. Forest Service, and they're combined. I would have to look it up. I want to call it the FIA, the Forest Inventory Analysis. There's also work done by NatureServe and Land Cover Maps, and we have some of those. And that's the next map coming in here. I don't have it to show to you today, but I certainly will in a week because I'm building it right now. And that divides it into, I think, 610 different types of forest. So that's really specific, where it takes not where it takes the entirety of the continental US and divides it into not 140 tree types, but nearly 600. So that's even more detailed. And again, those are coming out of the federal government. I think those are mostly created for the logging industry, is where they originated. The weird thing about the tree maps that I see is they're out there on the internet. Like, I could download this data, I can get this data and put it in these maps and make it so you can use it. But if you want to go find it on your own, it's kind of like good luck. I think while the federal government has created the data, what they have not created are useful maps that consumers can use to enjoy this data. I think it's great if you're like Weyerhaeuser or Roseburg or the state of Oregon. You have GIS specialists on staff that can pull this data and use it. But for you and I don't think you're going to find this anywhere else useful as a free map. I'd say if you do, feel free to share it. But I don't think you're going to find it. Now, the next one down is forest type. Forest type is one of my favorites. It only has 28 types. So it's not, so we have 28 in forest type. We have 140 in tree type. And then we have potentially 600 in the next level, which, like I say, we'll have for you in about a week. And you can see it here. I think this is very illustrative, and I like to use this to find real general type of habitats, where you can see here, if you examine the colors, you can see, that this brown right here is going to be a Douglas fir group, or a Western hemlock group, but in this case, the Douglas fir. This salmon color, Pete, I don't know what color that is Engelmann spruce and subalpine fir dominated. And then you get into the red, and that's going to be your pines. And then you get into this kind of tan, and that's going to be your ponderosa forest. So as you look at this map, actually this says a lot. You can see the changes in the habitat with these different trees. as you go. And I think it's very useful because I look at this and I see where these Engelmann spruce have these big inroads into the Doug fir forest. And I love to hunt those areas. I think they're fabulous, personally. So I can understand how the habitats change just by looking at the 28 tree type map right here. It's pretty useful. Okay, so that's forest type for habitat. We also have forest maturity. That is, I have it in here where that comes from. That's one of the few that are created by a private organization. There's a group called matureforest.org, and they create this map here from, it's a meta map. Metadata they pull it from a lot of different places, and you can use this to find in this case, let me find where I am again. I'm right here. And you can see down in here in this area where all this blue is, there's a lot of mature forest. And over here, these are where we're going to find our old growths and our big trees. Or maybe north of me, up in here, this is, what park is this, Kristen? I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, somebody can drop that in there. John, you live right there.
Ariel Ponsler?
Say again?
Ariel Ponsler?
No, the big federal park on anyhow, there's a lot of big trees there, forest maturity, kind of a cool map. Canopy percentage will show you how deep the canopy is, how thick it is. Cape Perpetua, thank you, John. He put that in the chat. That's the Cape Perpetua area, which has a lot of big trees. Now, out here in the Pacific Northwest, we tend to have pretty heavy canopy percentage, but you can see as you go east and maybe get out of these really tree-friendly climates into drier areas, you can see the coverage goes down, the color changes. And these forests are going to be less thick. They're going to let a lot more light in, and they're going to be a lot drier. So that's a fun one, that canopy percentage. We got some other ones in here. I don't think I need to dig too much deeper. We've got oops, we've got stand height and stand size and some things like that. So there are some more fun forest types in there if you want to explore those habitats. Also under habitat, we have topography down here under topo tools. And so aspect is going to show you northeast, south, and west. If we turn that on, it's a pretty big display when it comes up. You can find, based on the color, you can find northeast, south, and west aspects. And in some, especially dry areas, we care a lot about finding northern aspects. The slope visualizer is similar. That will colorize how steep the slopes are. So as you look at this, basically anything that starts getting into this middle orange and bright orange is going to be very difficult to hike on. So when you look in these areas, you can see, like, look how steep these are. This is a very steep area. You may ask, why is it so steep? Like, why are some areas so much steeper than others? I think it's because of the rain. There are areas that get a lot of rain and they got a lot of water running through them in the coastal mountains, and they've in this case they've created good rains in steep areas. But that's important for us hikers. I don't think the mushrooms care. They like the steeps, but I don't. The most common one in here is going to be this elevation range focus, which I use this a lot. I come in and I say, okay, I'm hunting morels, and I want to be in a range of 4,000 in elevation to, let's say, 6,000. Let's say 5,000. We're going to be in Oregon. Now, if you were in Colorado, you might be looking at 8,000 to 9,000 or 9,000 to 10,000, depending on what you're looking for. And you can turn. I got to turn it on. You can turn it on, and I'm gonna let that run for a minute. It's working. It's a lot of data. I'm gonna turn up the opacity, and what it has done is it has grayed everything out that is outside of that range. So now your eyeballs can very easily say, okay, well, here's where I want to be looking at. These areas right here are in that sweet spot of elevation that I care about in this month or this time of year or this mushroom. So it's a focus tool to help you ignore all the distractions in a modern topo map. The elevation rangefinder works exactly the opposite of that. So I'll put 4,000 in for that. To 5,000, I'll turn that on and I'll hit apply. We'll let it run for a minute and build the map. Because this is going to be, that custom built map. Now what this does is it puts a gradient on top of that range. And it goes from red to blue, low to high, and you can then see those areas that are at that elevation range. But the problem is you can't really see in here as easily, which is why that the range focus can ultimately be more useful for you. But these are helpful for any of you that hunt in the mountains. You're often trying to find a specific elevation, and I kind of feel like you can go blind looking at topo maps, trying to discover that elevation, looking at those little numbers. Let's see what we got in here for questions. Kyler asks, what forest type should we target based on month? Oh, that's a big question. I think it depends on the mushroom, and it depends on uh, where you're located. So um, I think I think I think that just depends on too many factors and what you're looking for, Kyler. I don't think I can answer that question. I would probably say that based on the month, you're probably targeting elevations more than forest types because that's what dictates the temperature often. And you might be looking for temperature factors when it comes to the month, maybe not. I think the forest type might be a more appropriate for what type of mushrooms you're chasing. Some are super specific to a forest type, and others are kind of generous, like say morels. Um, will grow in different types. So morels in Washington and Oregon, Kyler's saying, and then you're not gonna like this comment. Like, what kind of morel? Natural morels we find here in Oregon. They could be in the white oak forest in southern Oregon. They really like those Oregon white oak trees. We have manzanita and no, live oak trees that they might be in. I think further north, you're going to be looking for burn morels. You might be looking for cedar trees. You might be looking, I love looking in the grand firs. I've had really good luck though in ponderosas. As you go further east, the tomentosa burn morels like the pines. So there's so many factors. I don't think that's an easy answer, unfortunately. Um, okay, John said a wilderness area overlay. Yes, I have that. That's item number 6, and we're only on item number 3 right now. So, John, I will get to that. Thank you. I think that's pretty important. Is there a way to highlight wetlands? Dana, that is the first time I've had that question. I'm going to write that down. And I'm going to think about how to add that. And if you have any thoughts on what kind of wetlands you want to target or why, I certainly those maps are certainly available, and I could add a wetland area to it and fine. So if you have any thoughts on what you're looking for wetlands, Dan, share them with me. I can make that. I think that's a pretty compelling question. So we looked at topo, and now we looked at trees, we looked at forests, we looked at topography as kind of this idea of habitat. Now I want to go to topic number 4, which are going to be man-made things that we're tracking, and that's going to be primarily over here in wildfires. We have wildfires going back several years, back to 2022. And that's probably all we'll ever show is the last couple years of wildfires. I don't like to get too many years in here. I don't think it's helpful to find 10-year-old wildfires, I guess, until somebody tells me they want them, and then we would add them. But for burn morels, we're almost always at first and second year fires. And then I think more and more people are maybe hitting second and third year fires, even 4-year fires, looking for disturbance morels, which here in the West are Morchella snyderi. So I don't know why we have Ohio open here. I was looking at Ohio earlier. We have our top Western states up here at the top. I'm going to choose Oregon because that's where I'm in. I'm going to turn that on. I'm gonna rank. I'm going to just show the A's. I'm going to zoom out. And so when I turned it on, it highlights all the fires all over the map. And you can click on this fire right here and find out what it is. Here it is. That's the cram fire. Here's the information on it. But when you trigger it with a letter, it will drop a red fire marker on it. And if you click on that, you get a lot more information. You basically get kind of my thoughts on this A-rated fire in Marks Creek. I said it's ponderosa territory that can be productive when with ideal weather patterns. Ponderosa is like really dry areas. So for ponderosas, we're often looking in areas that have gotten rain recently, Um, and B, where they're maybe at the bottom of a hill where there's water flowing down and kind of collecting at the bottom of a hill, and maybe even where there's two hills, it's even better, or where a creek runs through. We might be looking at that. This says this area has small pockets of fir and spruce on north-facing slopes. This is a large burn with lots of area to explore and good access throughout. Nice elevation range and gentle slope, northwest facing, so it's going to hold up a little better in kind of dryness. And the elevation range is 38 to 48, and that's right here on the road. And we've had pretty good luck hunting this little stretch of 26 on this road before. In fact, the first year we ever hunted must have been pretty close to this fire. It's a nice area. So that's what happens. So the point of this is click on those, use the A to, or B or C. Now, if you click B, you're going to get all my B rated fires, which are also going to be really good. So A rated fires, usually somebody asks, like, what makes an A or a B? Um, uh, A fires are what I would call destinations, so worth driving to. And it's usually because they're pretty big. They have a lot of public land that you're allowed to hunt on. They're accessible. You don't have to hike in a long ways, or they usually have roads running through them. And as I assess them, I think they'll have good acreage of trees that are worth a visit. Bee fires can be wonderful, but they're missing one of those. Often they're hikes. So if you're a hiker and you want to get into your own private fire, look at the bees. Look at one that's a couple miles off the trail, and you might have it to yourself, and it might only be 200 acres, but 200 acres is plenty, especially if they're good trees. So bee fires can really be quite wonderful as well. Sea fires are a little more hit or miss. Those are like, if you're in the area, you might stop and you might get lucky, but I'm pessimistic. I generally rate fires on the western slope of the Cascades and the Sierras, and um, close to the coast. I rarely give them an A rating because I feel like the morels prefer to get up into the colder zones in the mountains where there've been snow sitting on top and they've had cold winters. But I do have, like, I have a nice A fire right here. Um, oh, those are B fires. Let me go to A. We have a nice A fire pretty close to the coast right here. But if we go up into Washington, there's fires up there, like these fires up here. I didn't rate those as A's. Okay, so that's man-made. I have a lot in there. Now, also in man-made, I have two other things. Now, these are all unique to GeoForager. You're not going to find them anywhere else. Like, I don't think you're going to find the tree stuff anywhere else, and the elevation range stuff really anywhere else, because nobody does elevation that way. But these are unique because I made these. The burn severity, we create these maps. Oh, let me leave that on. We create these from satellite imagery, where we take the satellite imagery before and after the fire that uses infrared parts of the visual spectrum to tell where the leaves are no longer on the trees, and where you see uh, green. I should change this. It's not green anymore. It's clear for unburned. It's yellow for low. Purple is high severity. So I don't have these for every burn. You may look in some and go, "Oh, this burn." I only did it for like the A and B burns, but here's an interesting one. I don't have it for this burn that you may note. Why? Usually the reason why is because the fires happen so late in the season that there's no infrared photos of the fire after the burn. They don't have snow on the ground, so they don't work. So unfortunately, this year there were a lot of fires pretty late in the season, and I wasn't able to do the before and after infrared analysis of them, unfortunately. But I got as many as I could in there, and that's really useful. Uh, we often say mushrooms don't like severe burns. I think that's really wrong. I think we have found amazing, beautiful mushrooms. I see John's on the call here. He's been with us in Montana, where we've been in heavy burn and found the most amazing, beautiful, big mushrooms to fill our bags. And I think the reality is that mushrooms don't mind the heavy burns, but they dry out so fast that they rarely have, excuse me, they rarely have the right kind of condition for the mushrooms to fruit. It takes a lot of rain to fruit a mushroom in a severe burn. I think if you go into like Alaska, And farther north, you're going to find there where it's moister and cooler that those severe burns do pretty well. You're also going to find here in the lower 48 that the severe burns may fruit first because the ground warms up so much faster in them. So we rarely find mushrooms in them, but sometimes when we do, oh my gosh, there's so many. So we pay attention. We still can check out the heavy burns, but it's like 1 out of 20 when they really produce well. Uh, yeah, Matt said if you want to select your area, just go up in here and where it says Oregon, pick a new state and then hit OK. And you can pick a different state and it will select it for you. Okay, so that's that. Now, Morel probability is another man-made map. This is one that Kristen and I make, and it's our own algorithm. We look at tree types, tree canopy, tree density. We look at slope, aspect, and elevation, and we create these kind of likelihood maps of where you want to go to look to find the mushrooms. So let's come into this fire that did not have the burn severity. Here's one, and you can see, there's this light green and yellow are going to be the top areas, and you can still find them in these moderate areas too. Don't be mistaken. It's the ones that don't have any color in here where we feel you're the least likely to find morels. Now, it could be that some of these areas are pretty good that don't look good, but typically these areas don't have enough trees in them when they don't get any color. But we ding them pretty hard if they're really steep. So we really lower the morel probability if the steepness is above 15 to 30. And above 30, we lower it even more because they're so hard to walk on. So that's the morel probability, Matt, for you. Um, it is fully optimized, by the way, for slightly drier regions. So the Morel probability map is really made for the slope of the Cascades and east of there, where there's shortages of water, because we also increase the probability with north-facing slopes. I don't think north-facing matters in here where it's really, really wet, but when you get out to that fire I was showing you out by Primeville, it's going to matter. The north-facing slope is going to be significantly moister than the south-facing slope. And indeed, if you pay attention, if you have two slopes, north and south, in front of you, you'll be like, wow, the north-facing slope has a lot more trees than the south-facing slope. And that's because, it's so much moisture and the trees grow better because of the moisture on the facing slope where it's bad. Kyler asked thoughts on making probability maps temporal based. Yes, we have had that thought. We had in years past, we had a probability map based on rain. We have kind of nixed that in favor of some other things with just with moisture, and I'll show you that in a minute. But no, they're not temporal based right now. And I think that's partly because I have to do so much computer algorithm like server work to recreate that on the fly every time. Where these probability maps, I sit down and I work, all January, February, and I make these maps uh, during winter, and they're permanent. They're there all year. I will tell you what's not in them, Kyler. Burn severity is not part of probability. So you have to look at those two separately. If you want to find a place that's less burned and a high probability, you do have to cross-reference those two maps. Okay, that was the man-made. I'm going to pop back out of here real quick and show you one other area for man-made, which I really like, these logging maps. I'll turn a couple of years on. They're all different colors. So if you zoom in here, you can see these are all log zones. The different colors represent the different years that we have available to us. If you click on one like that, we still got more colors coming in. That just came in 2023. When we click on it, it pops up and it will show you in here about this particular logged area. This was a pre-commercial thin. And here it is where it happened, some information about it, the acres. So you can get more details if you click into these and look at them. And they're rough. I think these help you get you in the general area, but you still have to drive around. These are provided by the Forest Service, and I feel like their reporting is not always up to date. But we love logging areas. We love to hunt them for morels. We find them to be very productive out here in the West. And just as a tip, um, it's the Morchella snyderi that is the logging morel, where the burn morel are going to be other species like the exemia and the sextillata and the exuberance and the tomentosa. The logging morels, the snyderi, is an early fruiter. So typically you can go now for the next 4 to 6 weeks and go to logging areas where the soil temperature is going to be 10 degrees below what it is for burn morels, and you can pick burn morels, and you can pick logging morels, and once those are over and the soil temperature warms up is when the burn morels start. So there we go. Oh, Dana, are photo markers you add private? Absolutely. Thank you, Dana. Great question. Everything you do in here is private. You are not sharing any of your information with anyone else ever. So yeah, it's private unless you copy it and paste it and share it with somebody. So that's a great question, and I care a lot about that. I think as foragers, we all care about that. I don't want my spots out for you any more than you want your spots out. So yeah, we're pretty protective of these, um, which, I don't know if you know, as an aside, some of the other big maps we use right now, I don't know if you know, they share some of that data. You can go, an example, you can go to Gaia and you can go look in a forest near me and you can see other people's tracks. You can see the date they walked through the forest, the track they took, and their name. And I think that's weird that and I'm on a map and go, whoa, Donald Duck 29 walked through this area last week and I could see here's his track. It was right up above me. I wonder if there's mushrooms up there because why else would he be walking through this area? So that's kind of weird. Everything's private. Okay, so those were man-made burn morels and logging. We showed you the morel probability maps. The logging maps are also available publicly. You can go find them, but I think again it's the same problem. We have to pull those from the Forest Service websites. Each Forest Service does their own reporting, and there's no like central place that puts them all in there. I will tell you that some of the big I'll call them competitors, Gaia and Onyx also will drop logging and wildfire maps in their system. I think the downside is they have like 25 years of data. So you go look at logging and it's a bit overwhelming. I made mine because I think like if you're like me, like I want to find this year, I want to find the stuff that was logged maybe last year, but mainly this year. This is what I'm looking for. And when you turn them all on and you're looking at, Onyx and you got all these areas, good luck finding like which ones this year. You got to go look at all of them and click on them. And they do the same thing with the wildfires. I don't care about 10-year-old wildfires. I want this year, and I want to screen everything out. I don't have time to look at the rest. So that is one thing to point out, but that data is available in other places. Okay, what's next? Next are time-based things. I think Kyler alluded to that earlier. That might affect the wind, and I think this is now we're entering the you're not going to get this stuff anywhere else. This is a geoforage. I work really hard to find weather and soil information, and people always go, "Where do you get this information?" I'll tell you in a second. So let's look at it. The number one thing we have in here are precipitation, and you can pick whatever you think the mushrooms care about. Sometimes I want to know what just happened. Rarely do I think the 24 hours really matter. I don't know that the last 3 days really matter for many mushrooms, the 7 to 14 or 30 day. Let's just do the 7 day for now. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to make sure that it's all the way up. We're going to give it a second to load. Hopefully there has been rain in the last 7 days. And Edward, you have your hand up. I'm not seeing any rain coming in for the last 7 days. Let me just toggle that off and toggle it back on. Maybe I'll turn on this one while we're waiting too. And this is going to give us an overlay of all the rain that happened during that time period and whatever area you pick. And it's accurate down to 30 meter squares. And it's not complying with me in this very moment. Let's revisit that. I'm just gonna turn it back off. Oh, there, as soon as I turn it off, there it comes. So here's the last 7 days. Obviously, it's a lot of data, and you can click in here, and you can get the legend, and you can see the difference. Like green, you got to get up to orange right here and red to get an inch. So if you want to find a place that got an inch of rain in the last 7 days, here you go. And I think this is interesting because we use this a lot. Kristen and I, as mushroom hunters, we use it a lot in Wisconsin. We use it a lot in Colorado, places we've lived. I built a lot of these maps because I wanted them. And what we have found is that precipitation is very local, and you can go a mile or five and be in a zone that is way wetter than a nearby zone. So if you're out looking even around your house within a 30-mile radius, you can find wetter areas by looking at this particular map, and be pretty successful. Um, so we let you pick kind of what date range you want. Now, I'm going to talk about this more in an upcoming webinar about when I'm more mushroom centric on which mushrooms and what days and how you might look at it. Like if you want to find morels, what's the data that matters here? On that same note, we have snow depth, same concept. Here's the current snowpack. You can zoom in, and you might turn your wildfires on. Like you might want to look at what wildfires are still underneath snow. And you can come in here and you can see if you click on one of these areas, it's slowly resolving. I'm going to click on one. Meanwhile, it will load in here and it will show you the snow depth, 57 inches in this case. So, and I think if you come in and we'll give it another load, sometimes it will give you even more information if it's available. Right now, it's not coming. But you can get it if you don't want to come down here and look at the legend. So there's still a lot of snow out here in these mountainous areas, um, that you can use precipitation for. Now, that's cool. Let me kind of go to the next level and say that I like that data. By the way, that comes from the agricultural industry. There's private data. There's private companies that are taking data from national weather satellites and radar, and they are basically doing a better job than the feds do, and they're applying models to it and algorithms to it and AI to it to create these maps. And I think they're morel hunters are not their clients. Farmers are. Farmers care a lot about rain. And other people do too, but I think agriculture industry is what drives a lot of that information. But we also have in soil, similar, we have soil moisture and soil temperature. Now, soil temperature is awesome. Morels, arguably, that's the most important indicator for morels and when they fruit. We'll let that load. Again, it's going to be a lot of information. Um, and this will give you a gradient map across the US and show you soil temps, and you can watch for the ones that are for your species of morel. We're a little slow today, it looks like, but it's coming. It'll come. Um, uh, Dr. Lena, you might just have to. She's trying to get the logging to work. Just let. You might have to let it go. The other thing, you might have to zoom out, Dr. Lena, because you might not have logging near you. Uh, if I get a chance, I'll come back to that though. Uh, Yeah, and yeah, Kyler's like, this is moving away from the morel specific. Yeah, that's for sure, Kyler. We started about burn morels, but we've been using our own maps to find, porcini and matsutake, and things like that. So we use it all the time for other mushrooms. So here's a soil temperature map. You can see when you click in here, we got that a lot of green going on. We're kind of in that range. Here's the mountains with the snow. It's still pretty cold. You can click on a spot, you can zoom in and say, "Oh, I'm near Corvallis. Let me let me come down here. What's the temperature like south of Eugene?" And you can click on here, and it's going to give you the soil temperature, and you can study it in here, um, what it is. And I think it's interesting. It's an average soil temperature right now. And the thing about soil temp is a lot of people measure it. Um, the fluctuation is radical from afternoon down through the morning. It can go up or down by a lot of degrees. We're down to 6 a.m. we're down. It wasn't too radical today. It went from 49 to 50, but you see swings of several degrees based on the time of day and based on how deep the soil is. So often people talk about measuring soil temperature, and my question was like, well, how deep do you stick your thermometer? What time of day did you do it? Was it a sunny spot or a shady spot? Like there's so many factors in it. I almost feel like I like to use these broad soil temps to get an idea for the whole region. And I have dozens of pictures of thermometers next to morels with really big differences in the soil temps when I measure them. And I'm definitely going to talk in my next session about how you use soil temps to really predict. And there's actually a way you do it, not just like what it is today. There's a 10, 5, 10, 20, 30-day soil measurement standard that you use if you really want to predict morels. What depth do you use? These are in here. These are measured at, they tell you in the they tell you in here 0 to 10 centimeters is one of them. I do that when I measure. I go that far because I have a thermometer and I always stick it down all the way into the ground. So this is, it tells you in here. This is oh, it did tell us there. 0 to 10 centimeters is what they're looking at here. Now I do have more data on that in a minute, but the depth does matter. It makes a big difference. We have soil moisture, same concept. You can click that, it's going to give you the soil moistures. And when summer comes and you get rainstorms and things dry out, the soil moisture is really crazy how different it is. And you can see even right now how different it is. Let's see, we're out here on the coast and our soil moistures are in like 85. You get up here, it's under snow. You go east where the snow is melted.
You're in temperature.
What am I in?
You're in temperature.
I'm in, that's not, it says temperature, but I'm actually in soil moisture. Sorry. Here we go. We are on the coast, so we're running at 60 to 70%. In the wet spots, it gets up to 70, but you go east and you can see already how you're getting some serious dry spots and dry areas as you go further east. And a rain will change these numbers pretty quick. So soil moisture is kind of fun. Now there's there's more. These maps here. So what I've been showing you, maps that will help you look at a map and kind of evaluate the region. That's really what they're for, to help you compare and evaluate entire regions and where they're warming up or where they're wet. There's a whole nother level of data in here. I'm going to just turn this off. Give me just a second here. I'll turn that off. Now, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna turn on a wildfire so we can click on a wildfire and get something really pretty relevant. This is that big. It's that got yeah, that's that big immigrant fire right here, and in Oregon. And I'm gonna turn on morel probability and like, oh, there's some nice areas up here. I'm gonna click in here. I'm just gonna be curious. Like, what are the conditions right here? And we have this advanced precipitation, which will give you a lot of information about this specific area. And it will show you right where I clicked. It got a half an inch of rain yesterday. Here's the last the rain so far this month. And oh, by the way, you want to see February? There it is, or snow. These lines here mean it was rain and snow. See if you hover over it right there, it will give you a more information. But there's more. You can scroll down and look at like, hey, how are we doing in this area? Here's the cumulative 12-month precipitation. For the last 12 months, we got 40% below average, which is that means that area is pretty dry compared to what it is on average. If you were like, well, let's look at this year. Different graph. Here we are for what they expect for the whole year. You can see it, the rains really slow down during the summer. But even for the year so far, we're 42% below average. Now, it's not like that everywhere. I was just looking at some areas down near Mount Shasta down in California, and they've gotten a lot better rain, and you can see it. And same thing if you go north up up in some parts in Washington, they got more rain farther to the north than we did. So there are spots that if you use this, you can find. We have more precipitation, more precipitation, wind, air temperatures. Here's the daily soil temperature fluctuating up and down in that spot. And you can see it goes up pretty high and low. We had some cold weather, some colder weather. Here's the soil moisture. Had some good rain. It popped back up. Snow depth. There's no snow on that spot. A lot of these areas, like if we click maybe farther up, higher up here, we might find, up in here. I don't know if it is. We might find some of these areas have a little snow on them still. If you go down here, nope, no snow there either. So this advanced precipitation, is going to help you evaluate one specific area and see how it does for you. I'm also working on it right now to release by the end of the month. I have a whole lot more precipitation data that we're going to start releasing in here that I think is going to be overwhelming for a lot of people. But if you're like me and you really care, you're going to be able to get not just this information, but we're going to do some work on the data and kind of package it up so it's easier to digest. And what we're going to make it is so you can drop in a picture from the past, and it will tell you all this data for when the picture was taken. So if you're like, hey, we did really well hunting in Prineville 10 years ago, we can drop a picture of a mushroom that we took 10 years ago in here that has the long lat and the date in it. You can type the long lat in too and put in a date, and it will tell you all the weather that led up to that moment we picked the mushroom, like we just saw here. Uh, I'm really excited to release that feature in a couple days. For those of you that want to use all your old pictures and old information to see how does it compare to previous years. How do you get to this weather section, Kyler? You just click. This one, you just hold it down. It pops up and you hit advanced precipitation. So that's how you get there. And that's why we're doing this. Like, I feel like after, talking to subscribers that use this, they rarely have kind of reached in and seen all the information that's really available to them here. Okay, so that's the soil moisture, temperature, all the time-based factors about when you go, or maybe where. If you're looking at the map, you can find the wetter or warmer or cooler spots and follow them. I'm going to turn this off. And next, we're going to look at land ownership and talk about, like, stay legal. So that's down here under public access, and we've got quite a bit of data in here. Let me just come in and zoom in here. Right here. And I'm going to turn on this one for now. This will take a minute. This is new. So this is if you want to zoom in somewhere and see who owns the property, you got to get in kind of far enough, and I'm going to let it load here. There it is. You can see the property lines, the private property that, who owns what. There's some state of Oregon land right here. And you can zoom out, but you can't go too far. At some point, we're going to lose the lines. Like, you have to zoom in there to trigger the property ownership boundaries. It's just too much otherwise. I like to use this to not only know is something private, because it will tell you, Joe Smith owns this, not the state of Oregon. It really shows you the exact boundary and who owns it. But the other reason it's pretty handy if you live out west and probably anywhere, is there's a fair number of timber companies out here that allow us to hunt on their private land. For instance, Roseburg. There's some that don't allow us to hunt, like maybe Weyerhaeuser, depending on the parcel. And there's some that charge us $100 for an annual permit to hunt, like Green Mountain Forest, Green something Forest. And this will help you find their land that is private but maybe huntable. So that's kind of fun. This type of map is not available many places on the internet. Right now, there are a few. I know Onyx has that. Now down in here, we've divided up all this public land into different different areas that you can select. Um, this one public. I'm going to zoom out. These are all specific, so you can zoom out a little more. I might need to. Let's see here. We are in public access. Yep. I'm going to turn on a few. Zoom out, and this will allow you to see, wow, look at all the BLM land, and that's the purple. And there's the wilderness areas are going to be these blue areas that that we know are you can't hunt in them for morels. So I'll turn those off. You can see there were a lot of them. They look beautiful for hunting. Let me rephrase that. Um, every wilderness area has its own rules on hunting. Some in Oregon, and there's a blog post on GeoForager, some wilderness areas in Oregon will allow no picking at all. Some will allow you to pick if you eat it while you're there, like you're camping. Some will allow you to pick a gallon of mushrooms in the wilderness areas. And then you cross the border into Washington, and some there will allow you to pick, 3 gallons in wilderness areas. So most wilderness areas don't allow you to pick, but some do. And that blog post is on our blog at geoforager.com if you want to read about the access. There's a quiz on there about the rules, and it's humbling. Try to take the quiz, and you'll see like, oh, these rules are really complicated in Oregon where you can and can't hunt. Forest Service, National Park, never hunt in a national park, right? Actually, there are parks you can hunt in around North America. Um, I think the Olympia Park in Washington, and there's a couple parks in the East Coast that allow you to pick mushrooms. Okay, tribal lands, you can never hunt those. Now, this map here, public access, this is one map to kind of rule them all. And it's slow. I hesitate to show it because it takes a while. It's a lot of data. This map comes from a federal data server. It's just a little slow, but it'll come in here and I'll zoom in. Let me just make it easier. I'll zoom in. We'll let it sit for a minute while it loads. And it's going to uh, not designate the part by color, whether it's Forest Service or BLM. It's just going to make everything green that is public, and then you can click on it and get all the details. As you can see, like these federal servers can be a little slow. You never know. I think it's evening time. It's even worse. It's usually not this slow, but it'll come. But maybe we're not going to wait. But that's there. I hesitate to use that unless I need it though, because of that very reason. Now, while we're in here, there's two other restricted means you have to click on it, Dr. Lena, what it means. It could be restricted because it's wilderness. It could be restricted because it's national park. It could be restricted because it's um, uh, some sort of private yet public, like conservatory land, where it's public access, but there's restrictions. So there's a lot of them that are restricted. And when this map loads, which here, oh, is it coming in? Let me just turn it off. There it comes. When this map loads, you can see here's a restricted area right here. And if you click on it, it's going to pop up and it's going to tell us it's restricted because it's a wilderness. That's a Devil's Staircase wilderness. So you kind of got to click in and read about what they are, but it will give you all the details on that land and kind of what it is and who owns it. So that's the public land map. So you can see it's not as useful. And here's all those little that private boundary land map where it's useful, where you can see all these little squares that are almost all owned by timber companies. So that's usually BLM land with timber squares in between it. And in Southern Oregon, that's where people hunt morels, are in these squares down here where it's BLM land, because that's the public land that's available. Okay, we're doing good. I am moving on to the last topic, that was land ownership. We talked about staying legal. The final topic is field tools. So when you're in the field, some things you can do with the maps. We have offline maps here. You can turn this on, and I got to here. Uh, that will light up areas like this, and you can turn it on and off, that you have saved as an offline map. So theoretically, if you're out in the woods, this area right here will work for you, even if you don't have a cell phone signal. Now, I have them in both. I have them in two places. You can click here, and this does the same thing. So, you can see they're connected. One goes the other one. It's the same thing. But this will hide your spots, your save offline. And if you hit the gear, you can go manage your offline maps. I have one here that's Rockfire. I built an online mapper and I can hit go to and I can go see where that is. I can turn it back on. Oops, there it is. So it filled the screen right there, but that's the map. I'll come back here. You can also edit the map and you can add new layers to it. So when you build the map, we only let you download a few layers, and that's because um, it takes too long. And when we let people download as many layers as they want, they're always like, this takes too long, it doesn't work. So we limited it, and you can go add new layers. And now people are, I don't want to say complain, but people are like, oh, I want to download more layers. Why can't I download more layers? And it's because, well, when we let you download all the layers you wanted, you had a complaint, you thought it didn't work. It works. Now, here's all the, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can download in here. I've downloaded US Forest Service, but you can pick any of these, and I'm always adding more. I haven't made every layer downloadable. None of the time-based layers are downloadable. You can't download precipitation, soil, moisture, sail time. I will tell you, roads and trails, I really like the Forest Service trails and the motor vehicle routes. We haven't looked at those, but those will light up those on your map. Those, like the public land, come from Forest Service, federal servers, and they're a little slow. So when you do download these, especially in a big area, they can take like 20 or 30 minutes to download. Um, and their servers aren't very good. Um, they throw a lot of errors. So we're like, we have to request like 8,000 little squares to build this map. And to get those maps, we have to request like 35,000 little squares because they fail so often when we request. We got to keep track and keep re-requesting them. But it is what it is. I just want to explain why those are a little trickier. But you can see those in here under roads and trails. You can turn on these two maps. I'll turn off that, and they will see there's trails and there's roads, and these are overlaid on here, and these are provided by the Forest Service, the roads and the trails. Most forests have them, but not every forest, because not some forest services are kind of lazy and don't make things like that. I think this motor vehicle routes is the single most up-to-date road information you can get online today. It's not perfect, but the Forest Service updates this pretty regularly with roads, and is probably best for that. If you just want to check and see what's open and what's not, it's a pretty nice map. And here's the trails that you can hike or walk on. Okay, so offline, you'll notice when I'm in here, I'm going to zoom back out. And if you want to make an offline map to use, that's this button right here, which has a slash through it. You can't download this area; it's too big. So you gotta zoom in, and there you see now it's available. Now you can hit download. You can name it, test. You can pick the ones you want. It's going to stop you at some point, like 5 maybe. You can pick, whichever ones you want and hit save. And it will monitor how you're doing in those, and you can come back later. You can leave the screen, and it will be saved for you. It does work in the background, so you can just you can kind of leave this screen if you want. I don't think that close button works. So maybe you can. It doesn't actually let you close. I'm just going to hit reload on that. I'm going to have to make a note that the close button on the offline maps doesn't work. Okay, so here we are. That's still downloading in the background, but if you ever want to then use it, when you go offline, they show up on the left. Now you can pick this and you can go offline manually, and here now it shows you the offline maps that you have available to you. So we like to go offline, and we also cache maps. So it saves all the maps you look at, it saves 10 days or something. So if you go to an area and you zoom around and look, it will remember those. You can't zoom in past where you were when you're not offline, but it saves a lot of maps in your phone using caching. Um, uh, but sometimes when you're in the woods, like out where we live, we have one bar. Um, we call that the fuck you bar because it looks like you have a cell phone signal, but you don't. You don't have enough data to actually pull them out. So you're there on your looking at your phone You're like, this doesn't work. I have a cell phone signal, but you got like 1 or 2 bars. There's no data, and it's just working to download maps. It's super annoying. So we added this feature so you can just say, oh, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go offline. I've got this whole area mapped already as an offline map. And that way I'm not going to worry about trying to download fresh stuff. I can zoom in right in my offline map and get what I need. So that's what this is for. We sometimes go offline on purpose when we have that one bar that's messing with us. To continue the tour, that was the download. We have the plus where we can add a marker and you can put it in the middle of the screen or your location where you're at. If you want to put it, let me cancel out of that. If you want to put it in a spot like right here, you hold it down and you click add marker here. And then, you can name it test marker. You can put in notes, mushroom here. You can organize them by folder. I organize them mine, by where I hunt, so I can turn them all on or off as needed. I'll put it in my Burn Morel maps folder. You can add photos. And by the way, if you add a photo, it will ask you if the photo is in a slightly different spot than the marker. It will ask you if you want to move the marker to where the photo is. So the photo could dictate where the marker goes. That button's right there when you upload the photo. You can pick a category for your marker. So we have a lot of different mushroom categories in here. Um, there's, you can search them. These are the ones I've used recently, I think, so they must be right at the top. You can say, oh, that's a chanterelle. So we have categories for your mushrooms. You can pick icons. I think in the next couple days we have 16 new icons to upload of different mushrooms. So we have like a morel icon and a porcini icon and a chanterelle icon and some fun ones that you'll have to guess what they are. I think they're kind of fun. Like, what is that? Well, that's a puffball icon. Uh, we have a chaga icon. So you can pick your icons. You can add new icons if you have your own, or you want to go. If you want to go pick an emoji from all the different emojis available to you. If you want to put a fish on there or a ribbon, you can pick any of those too. Okay, so that's how you add markers. You can rate this. So all your markers have a chance to be rated. And you can also choose this to save. If you want that area around that marker to be saved in GeoForager so it works when you're offline, that's a handy little feature. You can turn that on and it will save some tiles around that marker just so you can kind of see the context. And it lets you choose the map. I would choose outdoors view by my default. So I'll save that marker and it's in there. You can do a track. So I can't do this now because I'm at a desktop computer, but you hit start, it has you walk through the woods, and then you can see where you walked. So I can come in here to my folder. I'm going to look at my tracks, and here I'm going to turn a couple of them on. When you click on them, they take you to them. Let's go to Megan's spot. There's Megan's spot. That's a green track. It doesn't pop as much as some of the other colors. It picks a color for you, and you can see we walked in like 5 miles, and then that's probably not five, it's probably 3. We hunted this area and we walked back. If you click on it, it will give you more details about the hike. Will tell you what markers are nearby. It will allow you to save information about the hike in here. You can see this was a 2-hour hike. And I walked 5,000 steps and went 2.6 miles in total. I don't think I tracked my way out though. Here's my elevation profile, and I can add photos. So that's nice to keep track of your marks, your tracks. Um, so I have more of those in here. I'm going to turn those off. Whoops, wrong button. I'm going to click this, and I can then turn off the eyeballs and hide them. Oops. I can delete them. I can edit them. I can see the data about them right here. So and that also allows me to crop it if I want to shorten or remove the beginning or ends of my hike. Often I forget to turn it off, and I've driven 5 miles, and I want to remove that 5 mile drive from my hike. So here's an example of I followed a drive, that purple one. Okay, so I think we're pretty close here to the end. We can add pictures as well. And now when you do this on your phone, you can hit photo and you can pick up from your hard drive, which is what my computer just tried to do. You can't see that because it's a pop-up. Let me there. You can pick up from your iPhone now or your Android. You can pick a photo right out of there, or you can take a photo and add it that way at the same time, and that will drop in there just like a marker with all the same details. Uh, and then when you go in and look under Manage Markers in here, under your markers, it will show you which ones have photos. So this one and this one have photos attached to them. You can mark them as these are my favorites, so you can bubble them up to the top that way if you need to. Um, uh, this track here, friendly name, whatever that is, also has a picture saved that I took somewhere on that track. All right, what did I miss? I think that's everything for the day. We've done this in an hour and 15 minutes. I think we did pretty good. You guys have any questions in here? Let's see where we are on the chat. Oh, you guys are having all kinds of conversations in here. Talking about Florence. Uh, yes, lots of food to eat here in Florence that you forage out of the ocean. We talked about public access being restricted. Do restricted areas include temporary restrictions designated by the government post-fire? No, Heather. Um, the restrictions do not include those special orders that go on the websites. If you want to find out whether a fire's been enclosed, I'll give you guys a tip. You have to go to the Forest Service or the BLM, but usually it's the Forest Service that fire is in, and you have to go look at their closure orders, and they will tell you which fires are open or closed, and they usually will give you a map of what's open and closed. Oh, thank you, Gwen. Any other questions before we wrap, everybody? I hope to see you in a future webinar. The next one, like I said, I'm going to spend less time like walking you through all the features and come at it more from a mushroom and say, hey, here's how we use soil temperature. Here's how what we do with some of these habitat things to find mushrooms. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Sounds good. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye bye.